was a regular Saturday night. I wasn't in the best mood as I had to babysit my little 8-year-old cousin Alex that night. My aunt and uncle were heading out of town for the night with my parents, and they needed a babysitter. Of course, my parents just had to volunteer me. My dad offered to pay me $30 to take Alex to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. I would have rather stayed home and just watched TV, but making $30 to sit at a pizzeria and watch animatronics for an hour at most seemed like a good deal. Before leaving, my dad handed me $50, the extra $20 for whatever the cost was for the food and games. I would obviously pocket the change. My aunt and uncle dropped Alex off as they left with my parents. I greeted Alex and tried talking to him, although I didn't expect much conversation from an 8-year-old. It was around 8 o'clock when we left. I had never been to this place. I imagined it would be like Chuck E. Cheese. I did, however, know that this place had a bad history, and that it would be closed by the end of the year. Alex seemed excited on the way there. I couldn't relate. I remember having always been afraid of those singing animatronics in these kinds of places when I was younger. We got there at around 8:15. The last show of the night started at around 8:30. I remember outside seeing a help wanted sign for a security guard. I wondered why a place like this would even need a security guard, but I shrugged it off. We sat down at a table and I got a pizza for us. It tasted no better than a frozen pizza or what you would get at a Chuck E. Cheese. I didn't expect much more though. The atmosphere seemed a little outdated, like something that would fit in the early 90s. The place wasn't particularly nice or clean, but it was still very popular, which made me wonder what could have happened to make it have to close by the end of the year. While eating, there was suddenly a loud drum roll, followed by a voice introducing the characters. The kids all cheered as the curtains opened up, revealing the 3 animatronic singers, Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica. I was shocked. These animatronics looked old and a lot less detailed than I was expecting. They looked creepy. As they sang their first song, Alex, along with all the other kids, seemed to be enjoying it. Even most of the parents seemed to be smiling and having a nice time. But I just stared with a blank expression on my face. The animatronics' movements were pretty smooth and impressive though. I guess they made up for the looks. After they finished their first song, the chicken in the back, Chica, I swear, turned its head and looked straight at me. It wasn't by chance. Its eyes were fixed right on me. I stared back, a little freaked out. Maybe they were programmed to make eye contact like this, but for how long? It was staring at me for at least 30 seconds. Both the other animatronics were turning their heads and eyes to look at the whole crowd, but not Chica. It wasn't until the next song started that Chica finally started moving its head again. I felt a bit relieved, considering maybe I was just being a little paranoid, letting my childhood fear of animatronics get the better of me. At least Alex seemed to be enjoying himself. The song went on for about 3 minutes before ending. I had at this point completely calmed down until it happened again. As the song ended, Chica turned its head to face me, eyes locked onto mine. But this time, Bonnie turned its head to me as well, making eye contact. "What the fuck?" I said, obviously loud enough for Alex to hear me, as he looked at me with a curious stare. I pointed out to Alex that the 2 animatronics were looking at me. He didn't even acknowledge what I said. As Freddy spoke to the audience, both Bonnie and Chica's fake eyes were locked onto mine. My heart started beating twice as fast. At this point, I was freaking out in my seat. Why was nobody turning around to see what the 2 robots were staring at? Was anybody acknowledging what was happening? I got up out of my seat to go refill my soda at the fountains, frightened to look behind me at the stage. I refilled my cup and stalled by slowly putting on a new lid and straw. I was just waiting for the next song to start, or some kind of intermission. I just couldn't turn around to look at the stage. Suddenly, I heard Alex call my name. I had to turn around now. It's okay, I thought. There was no way the animatronics were still looking at me after leaving my seat. I turned around to look at Alex, but I saw at the corner of my eye the 2 heads staring at me. I dropped my cup of soda on the floor out of shock. An employee came over and asked me if I was alright. I asked him why the hell the 2 animatronics were staring at me. Just as I was saying this, I heard Freddy on stage say it was time for intermission. I turned my head to look at the stage, and the curtains were already closing. The employee explained to me that the animatronics were designed to make eye contact with people, before he walked off. I could tell he hadn't taken me seriously. At least the curtains were closed and I couldn't see them anymore. But still, I just couldn't forget how they looked at me. They stared directly at me, but the way they stared at me, it didn't feel happy or friendly. It felt evil. I asked Alex if he was ready to leave, because I wanted to get the hell out of that place. He told me he wanted to see the rest of the show and play some arcade games. He asked me for my cell phone, telling me that he had to tell his mom something. I handed him my phone and he walked off to the arcade games. As he walked off, I noticed another mini stage away from the main stage. It was called Pirate's Cove. The stage had the curtain closed and a tiny sign out front that read out of order. I asked an employee what it was and why it was closed. He told me that the animatronic that lives on the stage, named Foxy, had a technical malfunction in 1987, causing it to bite out a child's frontal lobe. Hearing this news, I realized why this place had a troubled history, and why it was closing. It shocked me that if such a horrific accident like this happened, how this place managed to stay open all this time. I was starting to feel uncomfortable staying in that place. I wanted to leave as soon as possible, but I knew Alex was having a good time. I saw him playing some arcade games. I sat back down and just waited. I just wanted the show to end as soon as possible so we could leave. About 5 minutes passed until the intermission was over and the curtains were opening back up. A lot of the kids that had gotten up to play games didn't return to the show area. I couldn't really blame them. I never found animatronics entertaining when I was younger either. Alex didn't come back either. I know I should have probably just gotten away from the stage and played the games with Alex, but part of me was curious. I needed to see what was going on, and if these things would still stare directly at me with their evil plastic eyes. Freddy and Bonnie made jokes and interacted with the kids in the audience a bit before starting their third song. It was interesting though. Most animatronics were attached to the floor, only able to move from the torso up. But these guys, their legs seemed to have free movement, allowing Freddy and his friends to walk across the stage. It was incredible and terrifying. The third song ended, and I was ready for them to look at me. Nothing. The three robots made jokes and interacted with the kids, none of them even turning their heads in my direction. I felt a weird mix of feelings, relief and discontentment. Why was I anticipating it? Why did I want them to stare at me? The last song went by fast because of all of my thoughts. As it ended, the three friends started to say their farewells to the children. At this point, I was convinced that they weren't going to stare at me anymore, and that maybe the worker was right. Maybe they were set to make eye contact with people. It was almost 9 o'clock, which meant that the place was getting ready to close. Most of the parents and kids started to head for the doors. Alex came to me and told me he had to go to the bathroom. The public men's room had an out-of-order